Hi there. Today's session is about performance. How do we really perform well? How do we really perform to a level where we can achieve our targets? How can we achieve targets? Maybe starting from maybe 50,000, then 100,000, and then so on and so forth, and you can build it to 1,000,000. How do we actually get to that point when we can perform? It starts with fear. If you wake up and if you have even remotely 0.001% fear, any decision that you make from that point is most likely going to be not effective. Okay? Now, you can never get rid of fear. So it's paradoxical. What do I mean by that? So if you take decisions in fear, you're not going to be able to take good decisions. At the same time, you can never get rid of fear. Fear is always going to be there. You just have to learn how to embrace that fear and still get the work done. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about habits. Okay? I'll give you a very simple example. Okay? I wasn't well, when I finished the event yesterday, I made a mistake, which is I was sitting in an office where there was no heater and the office was really cold. So I ended up becoming, by the end of the event, I was actually feeling so cold, I had temperature. So I came back home. I just said, I'm going to rest. Okay. And then I woke up this morning and I opened my diary, and I'll tell you how habits and good performance is created, right? It's logical. It's nothing. It's not subjective. It's logical. It's objective. Okay. Good habits are created when you have a habitual pattern of doing something. Okay. If you are not performing, it's most likely due to the schedule and the habits that you've put in your day, which leads to not really good performance. And again, leading from that, within that, it's focusing on the right things. Okay. So I woke up this morning and I opened one of my to-do lists. Okay. And the top of that to-do list is groups growth. Every morning, I wake up and I invite people into our groups. Okay. That's a habitual practice I've been doing for the past 18 odd months, 17, 18 months, something like that. Every single day. And is exactly the reason why you see that's such a big network now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's one habit. What's the next thing I did? I looked at all the social media channels and I said, they all need to be improved. Okay. Because some of the descriptions are older. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I started working on that. That was second in my to-do list. Now, this to-do list is made or changed almost every day or every other day. Okay? Then after that, the third thing on the list is SEO. This is delegated, but it remains in my list as a reminder to make sure that my team is doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
After that on the list is checking the phase 2 levels and phase 3 continuation. Okay? That's something I'm going to do after this call, but it's all on the to-do list. If I don't make this to-do list, and if it is not focused on the things that bring results in, do you want me to repeat this again? If I don't have a to-do list focused on things that bring results, and when I say results, I mean money in the account, you're not going to perform well. I'm going to give you an example in the context of property. Okay? Marketing brings results. If you are not doing consistent marketing, you're not going to get results. Okay? And when I say marketing, I don't just mean one channel. I mean multiple channels. Okay? From leaflets, in fact, you already have a list of 121 channels to use. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah? You already have that list. Now, if you are not working on that, what happens? You don't get results. Very, very simple. If you look at any business that has been successful, they have worked on every single one of them that you see in the list. Mazi, are you there?
Yep. Yeah.
How many of those channels are you working on? I know you do direct to vendor letters. What else do you do?
Direct to vendor letters, using agencies, creating rapport in the networking front, using social media, and ensuring that everyone I meet knows what I do.
How many is that? 3?
About 5 if I've actually summarized it well.
That's fine. 5. Your strategy is clear. You're using 5 decent channels. That's why you're getting results to some extent.
Yeah.
If you multiply that 5 by another 20, what sort of results would you get? Maybe not 20 times more, but would you get 10 times more?
Oh yeah, at least I would say.
Do you mind if I request you to take your diary and say 1 tactic, 2 tactic, 3? It's almost like you're pulling out that list of 121 and saying, next week, I'm going to add 1 more. And the week after that, I'm going to add 1 more. And the week after that, I'm going to add 1 more. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, yeah.
That is logical or objective way of improving your performance. Now, doesn't mean that you're going to leave the ones that you're already doing. You're adding on top of that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
After that, I'm gonna work with you, Mazi, here, so I can give you in the exact context of how it needs to be done. Okay?
Okay.
Remember, the first step is to have a clear strategy.
Yeah.
Second step is to add 1 tactic or strategy or whatever you want to call it, a marketing channel. Yeah?
Yeah.
1. Next week, another 1. Third week, another 1. By the end of the year, you should have about 40, 45.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it.
The more business you're going to get, the more people you can add to delegate. You can't do all by yourself.
Yeah,
Okay?
agreed.
You're going to get to a point where you either have to delegate or structure your business in a way where you don't have to do everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But unless everything is done, you're not going to perform. I'll give you another example in the same context. Let's say your value ladder. Do you have any in place at the moment?
Something that we're working on now.
Do you have it in your diary?
Yeah, it's in the diary as things to do, yeah.
Is it scheduled?
Without a date, no.
Okay, so if it doesn't have a date, it doesn't get done. When I say
you.
scheduled, that means in your digital diary.
Okay. No, it's written down.
If you come and see my digital diary, things are scheduled. So you see the to-do list here.
Yeah.
A lot of this is scheduled in my digital diary.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Every time you add on another channel and another tactic and another guide, another video, another podcast, another value ladder product, whatever you want to call it, okay? That's another asset sitting in your business. Muzzy, let's say you get from 9 or 10 to about 20. Okay?
Yeah.
In the let's say in the next 12 months, doesn't matter. 2 years, doesn't really matter. When you get to 20 and you are generating a 6-figure income and you've built your value ladder in the business, at that point, if you want to go and sell your business, do you think you'd be able, someone will give you some value?
I would say so, yeah.
It's when you build assets in your business is when you have value of your business. It's when you can leave your business, come out of it, and it's still profitable. When someone else is managing it, that's when your business has a value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
If let's say today, and remember, business is chaos all the time. It's not a chaos day 1 or 2 years later or 5 years later. Business is always a chaos, regardless of how small or big it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. If I was to come out of PEN now and say, I'm going to sell PEN, do you think there is some value in it?
I would say there's value in it now, yeah.
Yep. If I can have 300 registrations and 200 registrations, I can easily sell this business. Forget about everything else that's behind it for a second. Okay. There is loads behind it that you're going to see in the next, I know everything is taking a lot longer, and that's a part of the process. When you book something, it will always take longer than what you expect. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be value built in. You're building assets within the business. Does that make sense to you guys?
Agreed, yeah.
Okay. So let's start with this. Okay, Mazi? Let's say you create a guide and you say to access this guide for free, there's a landing page, people go on it, people can download that guide for free. Okay. And then they're taken to another channel where they can download a video for £10, a 2 hours video, or a VIP membership for £10. Doesn't really matter how you structure it. Okay. Remember, this is all going on autopilot.
Yeah.
Do you mind making £500 or £1,000 on autopilot?
I don't mind that at all.
No one does, guys. No one does. Just so you know, in fact, in the past about 6 odd months since we've started doing these events, some of the people that I've invited on events have been giving me kickbacks for the people that they've signed up. I've done nothing. All I've done is done my marketing. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
And remember, I'm building the PEN brand while other people are giving me kickbacks. Okay. Again, I'm not saying necessarily you need to depend on that money, but when you actually start to build those assets within your business and it starts to generate you 300, 500, 1,000, and then so on and so forth, getting to a point where you can be making 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pounds, that's when you start to enjoy that income passively, and it's brick by brick. It doesn't happen overnight. You're going to get to that point in 5 years' time. But in 5 years' time, you could be sitting on 3,000 to 5,000 pounds in absolute passive income. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great.
But it won't happen if you schedule it and then put it in your diary and say, I am going to create assets within my business. Okay? Let's say, I'll give you another example on SETI, for example. SETI does regular leafleting. He's been doing it for as many years as he's been running the business. Okay. And exactly in the same format, when I used to run a show for business, we used to do cards and leaflets, all sorts of things. Okay. Our normal average budget was 1,200 a month. Okay. And we kept doing that for many, many years. Okay. There are months which are kind of very quiet. And there are months when you wake up and you think, what's happened? Like, it's so busy. Exactly what SETI said to me yesterday, that they are like mad busy. Okay. So you do leaflets and cards and you think, oh, it's not working. Well, wait, because it's a patience game. Okay. When it does start to work, it really will start to work. It's a patience game. You have to do it consistently. Let's say it's a £300 a month budget, or 500 or 1,000. Doesn't really matter, whatever your budget might be, but you have to do it consistently for the rest of your life in your business. Does that make sense? Likewise, creating content, and content has been at the core of generating business since we know business. Okay? Since we literally know business, it's always be content generation to attract more business. Since the start of social media, now you can leverage it many times over because it's all free. Does that make sense? Okay? So you have all these free channels. Why won't you use it? But the reason people don't use it is because it's not in their diary, it's not scheduled, and it never gets done. Does that make sense? Okay?
Yeah.
High performers have very clear strategy, very clear habitual patterns of creating success. And that also includes networking with the right people, reading the right kinds of books, and surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. I'll give you an example. If you spent 12 months with 5 millionaires, okay? Do you think you increase your chances of becoming a millionaire by about twice?
At least, if not more.
You just increase your chances. There is no guarantee.
Yeah.
If after that you stop hanging around with them and you go back to the same kind of people that you were hanging around with, you didn't decrease your chances again. Does that make sense to you guys? It's the habitual pattern of spending your time with the right kind of people, reading the right kinds of books, networking with the right kind of people, and creating the right kind of habits.
Yeah.
So if you woke up today and you said, I'm going to work out for the next 60 days, and then you stop, what happens?
It was pointless because you're just gonna lose all the progress you made.
Exactly. Performance is a logical step-by-step way of, it's a step-by-step way of creating a high performance person as well as a company. It's not in a straight line. It goes like that, up and down, okay? But it's very, very logical. So you have to create habits, schedule them in your diary and say, I'm going to listen to a book for half an hour for every day for the rest of my life, okay? Or an hour. I'm going to hang around with the right people for half an hour to an hour every single day for the rest of my life. I'm going to network for half an hour a day, every day for the rest of my life. I'm going to have lunch with the right kind of person twice a week for the rest of my life. I'm going to wake up and have a very clear schedule of creating assets in my business. Remember, brick by brick. So one brick today, the next brick the next week, the next brick the next week. Brick by brick, you build a performance person. When you build a performance person, from that point onwards, you build a performance company.
So when you're saying with the habits, Jack, do you mean as in install a new habit over a week, and so like one a week instead of doing them all at once? Is that what you mean? Or
okay, so any habits is statistically proven to really become a part of you takes about 90 days.
Yeah.
Okay. What I mean by it is when you wake up tomorrow morning, you need to install a habit or instill a habit in you that will help you progress, that will help you monetize or progress in some or the other way. And that habit you build, so you create one habit and the next one could be the next day or next week, depending on how fast you want to move, because everyone is different, okay? I would say when you are starting out, one a week.
Okay.
Okay. I can do sometimes one a day.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I can move pretty quickly from one to the other, depending on what's happening in the business.
Yeah.
Okay. But it needs to be scheduled and it needs to be done.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give you an example in your context, Harry. Let's say, I know you're working on something else at the moment to monetize, but let's say you want to start working on property and you want to focus on property. Okay.
Yeah.
And you say, you know what? I don't have a lot of money. I want to buy properties without money.
Yeah.
You say, you know what? I'm going to start doing direct to vendor letters or start looking for lease options.
Yeah.
Okay. Or I'm going to start to find out about supported accommodation, or I'm going to focus on HMOs, for example. You pull out the list of HMO landlords and start to write direct to vendor letters. Whatever that may be, it needs to be done, and it needs to be done every day. So you may wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to go and look for lease options on Gumtree, and I'm going to spend half an hour every day. Okay. And I'm going to do it regardless of if I'm going to get results for the next 6 months. You may not get results for the next 3 or 6 months, remember, because you're still new. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you don't leave that habit just because you're not getting results.
Yeah.
You get results, but when you keep doing it and you keep improving it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you're going to start to see results 6 months later or 3 months later. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, in your situation, you learned something the other day and you said, I had to speak with a few people to see how it works in my situation, the 3 whys, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that happen? It happened because you practiced it, right?
Yeah.
Anything that you takes a little bit of time to practice, to improve or adapt to your situation to make it work. Sometimes it takes a day. Other times it can take 3 to 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But until you actually put it in diary and say, I'm going to focus on lease options, or I'm going to focus on supported accommodation or HMOs, and you don't do it consistently for about 3 to 6 months, you won't see the results.
Yeah.
You start to see the results when you say half an hour a day or an hour a day of my time, just focus on this, regardless of results. In fact, let me share with you something that's really extreme. And this is something I learned from Gary Vee. He goes, you know what? If you want to create content and you want to, attract all that business to you, create your content for the next 10 years without expecting any results. 10 years. And he said, 10 years later, go back and then look at your followers or following. Does that make sense? These days, when I create content, I don't even look at the performance. I just create content.
Yeah.
Okay. And my aim is, you know what? I'll check it 5 years later. I'll check it 10 years later. I'm already seeing results. But the reason I'm saying is I don't check it is because I know it's going to take us 5 to 10 years as a company to create a high performance company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But remember, you're not going to get results if it is scheduled in your diary and it is done and you keep building your assets. I call them assets in your business. You keep building assets within your business. Because remember, you look back at this business 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years later, and then you will realize what I mean by assets in the business. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions, Harry, Mazi, Lavanya, Geeta?
Not really.
No, I'm
Just
good.
with
Thanks. It makes sense.
Sorry, Lavanya.
Just a quick question.
Geeta, yes.
Yeah, just a quick question. For example, if you're trying to, let's say, put forward any services or any products to advertise to people, or let's say to put up in a social media, how frequent do you think, you should be putting in order to get enough captures, but at the same time not to annoy people too much with the same repetition?
The people who get annoyed, they're not your clients. They're not your prospects. Okay, so let me put it this way, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my missus actually did a research on a few speakers in the industry. Mm-hmm. Grant Cardone posts about 22 tweets a day. Okay? Mm-hmm. He creates more content than anyone you can imagine. His last event had 35,000 people in it. The biggest one that I can think of. So to answer your question, those people who get annoyed are not going to be ever your clients.
I mean, I'm not very familiar with these social media groups. Like, is there any, like, of course, because when you're trying to advertise something, you probably are using other people's group. And
There
do
is
you
a
think,
difference.
like, you know,
go ahead. I'm going to share something with you. Go ahead.
yeah. Do you think, like, because I'm just trying to trial it out as a trial to see if in case I don't get any objection from other people. Like, if you try to say probably something repetitively every single day, they may have an objection to it. But if you try to do it, let's say once or twice in a week, it just, you may get over it, you know. So or I should just wait on what exactly the feedback comes as and then react accordingly, individual, group by group, you know, because it can all very much down to admin as well.
No. Okay, so let me share with you two aspects here. There's a difference between helping people and then asking them to buy something. Okay, so when you create content, your aim needs to be that you want to help people out. And this can be your average, but my average is that I would normally help people about 9 times before I ask them to buy something from me the 10th time. Okay, so it's a combination of serving and selling. Okay, serve them about 9 times before you ask for a sale the 10th time. Okay, at the same time.
So in a way, the content has to be really written in a way that it sounds more likely a serve than a sell.
I'm helping you. Yes, I'm helping you. If you check yesterday's event, okay, what are you gonna see? What did we do? Yes, we gave strategy sessions, we gave guides, we gave another, for example, what was it? The analysis sheet of created by Jasim. I gave the guide out. I gave strategy sessions out. All of this is what really helping people out. We're not making any money out of it.
Yeah, that's true. I felt for a minute like, you know, these people are getting too much benefits. We paid for this and these people are just getting it for free.
No, but remember, at the back end of it, you can make sales. Remember the front end and the back end strategy?
Yeah.
So when we give the strategy sessions out, we ask them, are you looking for property finance? Do you want us to help you source properties? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we make sales at the back end of it. Okay, and some of these people may never buy from us, but guess what they do? Because they got so much from us, it's the reciprocity rule that they'll go and recommend our name. Does that make sense? Okay, and you want people to talk about you, give your name out. Do you see what I mean? The guide that we shared, I shared yesterday, and the analysis that Justin shared yesterday, it all has our company names. They're gonna get shared to multiple people in the industry, and guess what? That business is gonna come back to who?
You guys back, yeah.
So try to understand the game of front and back end strategy, which are shared in one of the other training programs. Okay, but coming back to your question of, you know, how often do I send messages? I send at least one message a day to my list, at the very least. And every now and then I get people, can I unsubscribe? Definitely, I unsubscribe them, and then they can leave. They're never gonna buy from us. But those who want to hear from us, they're always, you know, grateful. They always show gratitude. In fact, if you just check, you know, some of the groups since yesterday, I've had about minimum 50 people message me saying thank you.
So what's that list, Jack? The list we send out the message to?
The list. These are my people on my subscription list. Okay,
yeah, but so what I mean is what type of things you send out every day? Do you mean deals?
Content.
Okay.
Content. Yeah. I mean, look, to answer your question, Geeta, and simultaneously yours, Harry, you said, do I talk about one thing all the time? Go back to my YouTube channel. I'm always talking about growing your portfolio, growing your property business. Always. I talk about the same thing almost 70% of the time. If you look at Gary Vee, he talks about taking responsibility and doing it all the time. Every video that I've watched of him, at the core, the message is, do it, take responsibility, do it, take responsibility. That's all the core message he has. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So repetition is not a problem. It's almost like drumming it in people's brain that there is something you would need to do. if you want to improve your life. Okay? And that's all. Again, you don't see, you can just watch my content, or in fact, a lot of other people's content, and model it or copy it, not necessarily copy, if you know what I mean, but model it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But going back to this, the core of what it's all about today is about creating those habits. If you don't do this every single day, you are not going to become a high performer. It's a very conscious choice to say, I'm going to hang around with a certain kind of person. Does that make sense? If you hang around with someone who drinks every day, how likely are you to start drinking every day? If you hang around with someone who reads books every day, how likely are you to start reading books every day? If you hang around with multimillionaires and people with large portfolios, how likely are you to go in that direction? Remember, we are still a civilized form of monkeys. Does that make sense? We are literally nothing more than the 5 people we spend most time with. We literally are nothing more than that. Okay? We are actually biologically built-in copycats. Okay? And if you want to be a high performer, you got to spend time with high performers, and you got to create high performing habits. Okay? And habits means you wake up and you say, I'm going to create a product today, a product, okay, which is going to attract more people. I'm going to create a service which is going to attract more people, and then you create assets within that, on top of that. So you create one marketing channel, and then you add the second one, and then you add the third one, and then you add the fourth one. But it has to be strategically done. That means that the first service or the first product that you launch has to have a need in the market, has to have a requirement in the market. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And that needs to be, to start with, based on your research. Okay. Does the market even need this? If it does, or maybe there's already a competition, how can I create more uniqueness to it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
How can I bring more uniqueness to it? Sometimes it's not easy, but guess what? It's a part and parcel of the business. There's another, I'm trying to think of the name of there's a practice where you take a spreadsheet. In fact, there's actually a model which is used. I'm trying to think of the name of the model. What it does is it gives you, so it allows you to be more creative. What do I mean by that? So let's say if you want to start a certain kind of business, and then you write beneath it how you can make it more unique, and then it gives you options. I can check that, and I'll share with you guys that later, okay? But there's actually a way to multiply your creative options in terms of the business products that you create. Does that make sense? So let's say if you want to open a cafe, you might write down, there's already a Turkish cafe, there's already this kind of cafe, but what is not there, you write down the names of the countries, you write down the names of the cultures, and then you go from that point and say, is this going to work in this region? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Likewise, you can do the same with property. You're going to list the number of strategies. You're going to list the kinds of uniqueness that you can bring to it, and then it multiplies by that. Does that make sense? I'll share with you after the call. Okay. There's actually a way to multiply all of this creativity. Okay. But then again, coming back to habits. Are you every day waking up and building assets, habitual patterns to create assets within your business? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
See the guides that I've written. There's 2 or 3 that I've shared with you. There's 2 or 3 that I have not shared with anyone so far that I've written. This always has taken time to write. Okay. But they are scheduled. So today I'm going to do this, and I'm only going to focus on this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But it starts with a very clear strategy. Muzzy, are you there?
I am, yeah.
So let's say you know your strategy now. Let's say you are already implementing 5. How can you get to 120? Or for that matter, let's say, how can you get to 50? I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, scheduling. So like you've mentioned, I know the ones that I'm doing now, schedule it into a calendar, drop it into the digital one to put a time frame to it rather than say I'm going to do it at some point. So add one every week or one every certain frequency that I can handle.
Yeah.
And just keep adding them on.
Would you like to schedule time so you spend time with the kind of people you want to spend with? So let's say your next lunch, let's say tomorrow.
Yeah.
Would you like to have that lunch with a certain kind of person?
Yes.
What do you need to do?
Reach out to them.
You reach out to 10 people. Why would they have lunch with you?
I'll present the value that I can add to them. And at the same time, I'll leverage their knowledge resource. And
you add value to their life first.
Yeah.
Before they have lunch with you.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. But if you message 10 people, you're more likely to get yes to 1 or 2. Depending on your personal branding, remember, they're going to check your profile.
Yeah.
Yep. Would you schedule that in your diary?
I'll do that now.
When are you going to create your next value ladder?
Tomorrow.
Wait, there is a reason I'm doing this, okay?
I need to put a date to it.
Would you like to do that now?
It's actually there on my to-do list. It just needs to have a date on it.
Would you like to put that date now, Muzzy?
Yes.
Do it, please.
Yes. Okay.
When we finish with this call, I need you to go back to the activity clarity sheet, remember?
Yeah.
And write in there that this is what I did, these are the results, and this is how I'm going to improve.
Yeah.
At the back of this, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do me a favor, Muzzy. So I requested you to put one date. Can I request you to put your second one as well? So your value ladder products that you're going to create, can you put a date, the day that you're not working or the day you have a little bit of extra time, that you're going to create a value ladder product for your business? Would you like to do that? Would you like to put a date?
Yeah.
It can be a month later. Don't get me wrong. It can be a month later, but I need you to put a date on it.
Okay. Okay.
Good. Now, do you mind downloading that guide for me, the one I've shared on marketing? And make it into a spreadsheet, put dates besides it to when you're going to implement.
Okay.
Performance habits are always going to be out of your comfort zone. Are you thinking, Muzzy, how I'm going to manage this?
I am, yeah.
Good.
I am.
When you start to implement all of this, you're going to start to make more money. And then at that point, you say, I'm going to hire someone part-time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Am I stretching your limits?
Yes, you are pushing me out of my comfort zone again, Jack.
I need you, I actually mean it, Muzzy. I need you to put dates on everything that I've shared with you since you've known me. Everything. The reason I'm saying is that this is what a high performance person does. Now it's your call if you want to do it or not. Because if you don't look back at it and say, well, it's not really happening to that level for me. Okay? Because it won't, because you're not implementing it.
Yeah.
Okay? Within this, building credibility on top of each other. I'll give you an example. Okay? The first person I interviewed was the local MP. Okay? The next person I approached, I told him that I interviewed the local MP. What was his reply? He said, yes.
Yeah.
Likewise, I bought my first property. I built on top of that. Every time when I speak with someone, I say, I bought my first property in 2003. I kept building my credibility on top of that. I did a development worth 4 million. I'm also a part of another development, which is 4.3 million. Building credibility on top of each other. Does that make sense, guys?
Correct. Yeah.
You do one thing, and then let's say you write a guide today. Okay? You're speaking with someone and say, you know what? I've written this guide. I think this would probably benefit you. Would you like me to share this with you? You send that guide. They read a little bit. They're like, you know, this guy knows his stuff. Are you building credibility?
Yeah.
Building credibility on top of each other of everything that you do on an everyday basis. But until you don't do it, you can't keep building credibility.
Correct. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. You can use the credibility of other representatives in the team. Okay. At least I'm giving you that permission. If the other person doesn't allow you, maybe you don't have a great relationship with that person. Maybe it's time to have a great relationship with that person in the team. Okay. Let's say someone calls me up and says, you know what? Can you show me the 4 million GDV development that you did? Okay, I can do that. I send them everything because I was a part of everything that was happening behind the scene. Was I the main lead? Was I the main person leading that development? No. But was I involved in everything? Yes. Am I allowed to share that? Yes, I've taken permission from the person who was leading it. In fact, he's a part of the management. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Building credibility on top of each other. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. You keep building credibility on top of each other. Let's say, for example, Lavanya, right? You already run a franchise. Next time when you speak with someone, you say, you know what? I run a franchise. Have you already built that pre-framed credibility?
Yes, Jack.
Do that while you are building assets within your business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yesterday, that was the conversation with the owner in Maidstone.
Yeah.
So I told him, he did ask what developments have you done it?
Yeah.
Because he wanted to understand, because he has a problem with the previous planning permission.
Okay.
So I mentioned about your thing, 4 million.
Yes. Yep.
And I said to them, like, we agreed with another lease option now.
Yes. Yes. Good.
And I did explain to them that I'm a franchisee as well at the same time.
Fantastic. When it's time for them to know a bit more detail to that,
yeah,
it's no problem. We can jump on a call with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I already mentioned.
Building credibility on top of each other, guys, and then building habits on top of each other. I can jump on a treadmill, listen to an audiobook. That's built-in habit. I go for a walk. I put my earplugs on. I listen to an audiobook. Okay. I come back home. I learned something. I start to implement. Okay. I shared with you that I'm going to change everyone's agreement, and that will lead to a higher performance because it's incentivized. It's something I learned yesterday. And I already said, as soon as I heard it, I said, I'm going to implement. The next thing I did is I sent you guys a message. What does that do? I made a commitment to everyone in the group now. I put it in my to-do list. Do you think it's going to get done now?
Yeah.
building habits on top of each other, guys. Okay, I literally learned something driving down to office yesterday before the event. As soon as I came out of the car, it went in my to-do list, and then I messaged the group, and I'm going to implement before the end of the year. Does that make sense? Okay, if I leave it, I learned it and I left it, any use of that? Absolutely no use. It is building high performance habits, one on top of each other, one by one on top of each other. That's all there is to it. Does that make sense? Good.
Yes, Jack.
Good. Any questions so far? Dina, welcome. You right? Not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, I am actually.
Okay, good stuff. I know you joined us late, but you can watch this later. It's getting recorded. But anyone has any questions as so far?
Just a quick question, Jack, with regards to monetizing, because I know you speak about it a lot, and also I'm sure you have got a lot of probably strategies behind. But what do you think, like just as a suggestion to the people like who are property beginners, example like me, what other opportunities could really be possible for monetizing any opportunity?
Okay, so let's say if I was starting from day one today, how do I use this? Yeah. So let's say if I was starting today from day one. Okay. The first thing that I'd do is I'd go and shadow someone. Okay. Which is what you are doing anyway. Okay. I'd do a bit more of it. The second thing I would do is, what is this guy doing right now that I can implement in my business? Okay. So in your case, for example, you are focused on, let's say, rent to rents. Are you focused on rent to rents? Am I correct?
Yes.
How long have you been doing it?
More likely an year now.
A year now?
Mm-hmm.
How many hours are you investing into it?
Again, sourcing or on my own investment.
Well, it's two different. Wait, don't mix the two. Two different strategies. I am asking you about one.
Yeah. So of course, on sourcing, it's just probably kind of, do get to have, I spend more likely half a day, you can say.
Half a day
just
in
like,
a day?
Yeah, 4 hours.
4 hours every day?
Yeah.
And that's how many days a week?
6 days.
6 days. So you're doing about 24 hours a week. How many hours, how many weeks have you been doing it?
I think it's been more than 32 weeks.
24 multiplied by 32. What kind of results have you had?
Yeah, had a success of around 3 days.
That's it. Either the strategy is saturated in way you are doing. So there's two things here.
Sorry. I think I mean more in towards this automation process. Like, for example,
oh, you're talking about the automation process. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If there's anything could be done which can monetize things for you, of course, not in a great return, but something with the passage of time.
Go back to the value ladder training day that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched that?
Yeah, I think I pretty much covered all your videos. I mean, all the audios. I don't think I've missed out anything.
Go back to that value ladder one, and implement that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's put it this way, Geeta. Your pre-framing is not done well. I observe that you come, for example, I mean, with a lot of respect, I saw yesterday you'd written something which had absolutely nothing to do with rent to rent.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. You're diluting your position.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, I purposely did it.
But look, it's not about that. Try to understand the game, okay? You're diluting your positioning as well as the effect of your pre-framing. Does that make sense to you?
But I'm referring back to what exactly, because of course, you have to have few strategies in hand, because if one doesn't work out, the second one works. But in a way, of course, it's going to dilute your expertise, but at the same time, it's probably opened some more doors for you, because if you're just going to focus on rent to rent.
Yes, Geeta, but remember, you have not even implemented the strategy correctly. How many marketing tactics are you using or channels are you using to grow your rent-to-rent business?
I mean, all the platforms which are required, like which generally people do, like, in terms of marketing, which is going to be Rightmove, Zoopla, Open Rent, Prime Location, and Clear Room and Country. I mean, these are the only channels which apparently exist. I mean, in terms of, and of course, and the social media. And social media. So,
Geeta, you're mixing things up, okay? You're talking about filling up rent-to-rent rooms, and it's one thing filling up rent-to-rent rooms, and it's another thing growing your rent-to-rent business. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, you're mixing up things.
But again, in order
at
to
the same time. Sorry.
But I think in order to move to the second step of actually growing it, it has to be more likely having a success with the existing ones first, isn't it?
No, but
so you try to see firstly marketing that and see.
Geeta, so there's few things that you're not getting correctly. Okay, first of all, it's not just these channels. There's 121 in the list. Okay. Second, when I observe your marketing channels, you're selling all the time. You're not adding value. Okay. I said you add value to someone's life about 9 times before you ask them for a sale the 10th time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, probably not that generous.
When I'm observing your wall, or when I'm observing your marketing channels,
probably
you're
I
selling
cannot
all
be
the
that
time.
generous.
No, but you have to. If you want to run a business, well, guess what? If you don't want to be generous, people don't want to do business with you.
I mean, I can be generous, but not to that extent, probably,
Well, guess what? If you don't be, then you're not going to build a business. Okay. How much content have you got from the likes of Grant Cardone without paying a lot of money? A lot. Is exactly the reason why his business is where it is. Does that make sense? If you ask Grant Cardone to, let's say, spend a lunch with you, what do you think he's going to charge you? Tens of thousands, just so you know. Okay. The reason he got to this point is because he is generous, he's giving out, he's adding so much value to people's life. It's unbelievable. We yesterday did an event, Geeta, of 3 hours and 39 minutes.
Yeah.
That is content on our platform generating us business for the rest of our life. Okay. When I look at your wall, in fact, many others' walls as well, all they're doing is selling. And when you actually ask them, are you actually getting sales? The answer is no, because you're not adding any value to the community. You're not adding value to the property world. Does that make sense? And when I say adding value, I'm talking about creatively adding value, coming up with unique creative content that will help really add value to someone's life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're not doing any of that, and is exactly the reason why you're not building a sustainable business. Okay? 9 times value, the 10th time you ask for a sale. That's my strategy. Someone might say, I'm going to do 5 and 1. Someone might say, I'm going to do 20 and 1. But your value has to be many, many times over.
Yeah.
Okay? And imagine the number of WhatsApp groups. I get people messaging me all the time that I have built my business based on your WhatsApp groups. They've literally built their business based on the WhatsApp groups that we've created. We don't charge anything to manage these WhatsApp groups. But at the back end of it, we do sales, right? We don't, it's not like we don't do sales. You know, when you came the other day and I showed you the 28 million pound case, where do you think all this business comes from?
From your marketing, probably.
Exactly. It's all of the effort that you see, all of the assets that are being created within the business, the guides, the content, all of that you see, it's all generated by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's what it is. Okay. If you keep asking for people to buy from you and you're not adding any value to their life, why would they buy from you? They don't need to buy from you. They can buy from someone who's adding value to their life.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah.
My strategy is normally about 9 times adding value, and the 10th time I'll ask for a sale. Okay. Any questions so far? I've been challenged about this many times, that I give away too much content. Is exactly the reason we are generating the business, is exactly the reason we are creating the business, and it's growing. If you don't create content to attract traffic, you're going to have a shrinking business. Your business is going to shrink. If I stop generating all this content, I'm going to have a shrinking business. Yesterday, I had about, well, I was sharing about 18, 19 people asking for sessions and guides, and they want to know how they can get property finance, property deals, all of that. Does that make sense? Everyone clear on scheduling habits, creating assets, and creating values in your business, value ladders?
Yeah, I'm quite clear on that. I don't know. It's still a challenge, isn't it?
It is. It always will be.
Yeah. Speaking for myself, anyway, it's going to be a challenge, and I suppose the fact that it's difficult to add into a diary, to add more habits, is the reason that I need to have habits that can help me to actually make things a lot better. But it's definitely going to be a challenge. And
my question, Mazi.
Yeah.
Would you like to get to a point where you have 10 people working for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
10 people working for you. You've got 200 rent-to-rent properties. Would you like to get to that point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, keep adding those habits on top of each other for you to be able to get to that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You can always structure things in a different way. You can always hire people based on their performance. So, go and get us rent-to-rent deals and we'll split the commission. I've got a very strong investor database. Or, for example, I've got a video. Let's say I have a VIP membership at £100 a month. Okay. Every time you sell this membership, you'll get £100 or £200. Okay. But remember, those people who join your membership, they are the ones who are going to invest in your rent-to-rents, and they're the ones who are going to buy rent-to-rent deals from you. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you see that it is not making money from the front end, but making money from the back end products?
Correct.
Okay. I'll give you another example. In fact, a strong example. Do you know Disney, right? Disney makes movies.
Yeah.
In most cases, Disney's movies don't actually make any money at all. Disney movies are like a front-end product which breaks even at their company management structure level. They make money from their merchandise.
It's a merchandise, yeah.
They make money from there. So see a business that's spending 300 million to make a movie where they're not going to make any money. So 300 million invested into a front-end product, which is never going to make them any money. So they could sell their merchandise worth billions. Does that make sense, guys? You need to apply the same formula in your business where you create front-end products which either don't make any money or sometimes even lose money, but you have back-end products. Imagine being able to pull an investor through this value ladder that comes and says, you know what? I'll invest in 10 of your rent-to-rents. Yeah. You go from 10 rent-to-rents to 20 with one shot. But that won't happen unless you create the value ladder. Unless you create assets in your business. I call them assets in your business. You won't get to that point. Yeah. And instilling habits is almost like, you know what? do you know how many people I've messaged to meet and to collaborate with at very, very high levels? Okay. And only a few of them actually ever want to collaborate. Paul Mahoney yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? I messaged him, he replied. Great. He messaged me after the event that I want to speak at your next event as well. If you can, book me in. Great. When people see me with someone like that, or with other people like Sue Sims, or for that matter, anyone that we've done so far, John Howard and so on and so forth, what do they start to think?
You at that level, if not higher.
Exactly, guys. It's pre-framing credibility in your business.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it's a conscious practice to pick up the phone and say, I'm going to message these people. And then only expect maybe 1 or 2 people to ever come to you when you message 10 people. Okay? That's all it is. You only need about 1 or 2, and then another 1 or 2, and another 1 or 2, and another 1 or 2 to keep adding to your collaborations and to your credibility and creating content that will attract more business on top of each other. But it's a conscious practice. Can you see that?
Yeah.
It's a conscious practice. I wake up and I message every time I see that is more suitable for our channel. I message them. Can I interview you? Can I invite you to our event? Can we collaborate on something? Do you think everyone replies back? The answer is absolutely no. Okay? But I only need a handful of people. And then I build credibility on top of those, and then you keep building on credibility on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I need everyone here to look at their diary and book things. I mean, really schedule things in your diary. Okay? And then when they get done, you go back to the sheet of activity and clarity and say, this was the activity. This was the kind of average result I got. Because remember, when you start doing a thing, you start an activity, you're not going to get immediate results. Okay? It's consciously practicing that for the rest of your life or for a certain period of time to be able to get results. And then you say, I am going to improve this to get better results. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Geeta, in your case, are you there?
Yeah.
Geeta, for example, in your case, I would read a few more sales and marketing books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Remember, sales is first about adding value to someone's life before you can ask them for a sale. Okay?
Sure.
If you directly go and ask them for a sale, why would they buy from you?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay? So try and understand that game of adding value first before you expect them to buy from you. Okay? In
It's
fact,
like,
in fact, you never expect for anyone to buy from you. You just serve and add value, and the sales will come to you.
yeah, I agree. It's just like, probably a little bit of bad taste to the fact that, okay, when actually I did sourcing, and of course I'm still doing sourcing. I mean, when actually people waste loads and loads of your time because you're just adding value to them and you're not getting anything in a return. It just kind of, probably brings a little bit of...
Why are you expecting?
Because it's very obvious human nature. When you're putting so much of time to it, you just at least want some kind of, return to it. No? At least to cover your initial cost.
If you start to expect, you'll always be disappointed.
Expectation hurts.
No, actually, what happens, Jack, sometimes people start to think you're stupid. I'm telling you, when you start to serve so much of value to people, people start to, at some stage, they will think, they have to...
Geeta, sorry, let me stop you there. Do you think that doesn't happen with me?
I'm sure you're more experienced in the game, so I'm sure people take you with more credibility. But when I try to run around and fulfill all the expectations of the clients and try to do everything possible, and at the end they don't, let's say, buy it off you, and you still kind of did all that for them, they really think you like, you're stupid, just wasted all my time, but they still had a full power to say no to me, So I'm just saying, like, that little bit of bad taste of people's, how they behave to you, just, sorry.
Geeta, we've had this conversation a few times, okay? Mm-hmm. You're not adding enough value, and on top of that, you are, okay, so this is how I would perceive you if you came to me. I'd always think all you're trying to do is sell to me.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, people don't like being sold to. People don't like being sold to, but they like buying. There's a difference.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
People like buying. I'll repeat this a few times so you understand. People like buying, but they don't like being sold to. They like being served to. So if they feel that you're really serving without expectations, they will buy from you. Because you are expecting is exactly the reason they don't buy from you. Does that make sense? When people approach me and I serve them, I'm not expecting, but they buy from me because I'm not expecting.
Mhm.
It's psychological, but try to understand the game.
Mhm.
If I came to you and Geeta, here is a deal, do you like it? But if I came to you and said, Geeta, in this region, this is what the stats are, this is what you can potentially buy, this is what it will look like when you start to invest, this is how your journey will be. And then I say, are you interested in this deal now? You're more likely to say yes. Because I've added enough value to your knowledge base or to your understanding of how to look at a deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So try to understand the game here. Okay. Any more questions at this stage of high performance habits? High performance habits. High performance habits create high performance individuals. High performance individuals create high performance companies, and high performance companies create high performance cultures in the companies. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, Chair.
All right. Okay. So the question for everyone here is, what is your next step? Are you going to schedule habits that will help you get better results? And remember, it's reflecting back at your activity and then improving that activity. Okay. Do you think it can be done in a year? The answer is no. This happens over a period of time. You keep building your performance. You keep building or improving your performance over a period of time. You don't just get there in a day. You get there in fact, 40 years that you see me now, a very high performing individual. Okay. And then now at the back end of it, I'm creating a company which is going to be high performing. Does that make sense?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Any questions at this stage? Good one. So I'm going to stop recording. So thank you for watching, guys, and then we'll continue.